bros, gals, bromams, and everything else. I ain't got enough names. I am absolutely livid. And by livid, I mean just kinda annoyed. You see, there are many odd, bad actors out there for things of any kind. For example, every woman that isn't completely enamored with yours truly. Clearly such a thing is impossible. Like, what woman isn't into Sonic fans? Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't even keep that going for the bit. In 5 years, there'll probably be a law to keep all Sonic fans at least 100 feet away from other women. And if you're a woman Sonic fan, I don't know, dog. Start learning how to astral project or something, I guess. But shoot, I'm getting distracted less than a minute in, dog. Bad actors, right? These little rat heads are annoying as sin. In the context of a series or its fandom, these guys typically end up as rage baiters. Not usually anything actually harmful, but just really annoying. Like, do not put me in a room with the One Piece community. Only one of us is walking out of that room. And it ain't gonna be me. Those guys reek.
Oh, you nasty ass bastard!
But the thing with rage baiters is that we already know what they are, and they already know what they are. They're doing all that with the express purpose of pissing people off. But there's actually another breed of living human stench that exists throughout fandoms. One that mainly applies to gaming communities, and as such, I'll be focusing on them today, but can definitely still exist in some form in fandoms of other kinds. And I'm gonna dub these guys ballooners. You'll understand it in a second. See, these are the types of fellas that I find talk, most times negatively, about a game, but in such a way that it feels like they just don't actually play the games? Like, apologies for bringing up Sonic fans again, but I can see a lot of this speak with the upcoming Cross Worlds. These types often heavily inflate the severity of the issues they speak on, talking as if it's the end of the world if the issue they bring up makes it to release. But to someone who would actually play the game, it likely wouldn't even register as a problem to them. Do you know why? Because they're playing the goddamn game! What baffles me the most with these guys is simply the dramatics of it all. Because oftentimes what they bring up are legitimate points to discuss, but are also ultimately just nitpicks, or rather minute in the grand scheme of things. To someone who's just watching the same clips of gameplay over and over, or scanning the same screenshots nigh infinitely, yeah, there are probably going to be some issues you could point out. But game devs aren't prioritizing the people who only talk about their games, it's the people who play them. And unsurprisingly, the most important thing to most people is going to be if the game runs well, feels good, and is a fun experience. I saw talks become as nitpicky as considering the game a washed attempt because a singular rock that you would only see briefly in the non-playable sections of the tracks was low poly. That is it. Now, I don't even want to be too rude to the people who both said this or were in agreement with this, but guys, there are two big reasons why devs would not care about such a thing, and you shouldn't either. First of all, because you barely see it. For what purpose would they need to make a supremely detailed background rock in a kart racer that you would only see for like a second at a time? That's just a waste of resources. And speaking of resources, it's also incredibly suboptimal to do both performance and storage wise.
Wait a minute.
If you make every single object in a game incredibly high quality and detailed, you're going to run into performance issues quickly. So to circumvent this, usually the things that players aren't really meant to stare at or interact with much are made lower poly to prevent said issues. They know that people actually playing their games won't even have time to pay attention to such things because they're too busy drifting, doing tricks, and bombing people and then leaving them for dead to worry about the polygon count on a rock. Some of the ultimately unimportant nitpicks for games like these are still valid talking points, like the trick animations for example. But then you get some like these that are just... But take note that I said this is a gaming community issue, not just a Sonic community issue for once. Rest easy, Sonic fans, we're not alone this time. Cause you wanna know where I heard a very similar sentiment before? The Spider-Man fandom, specifically when Spider-Man 2 came out. Cause when a game comes out, you'd expect people to be excited and talking about, oh, I don't know, the game? But instead, probably the most ridiculous nitpick that I saw someone balloon into a reason for the whole game sucking was not the gameplay, not the story, not the graphics, the performance, the bugs, no. It was because a single soda pop can was a low poly model. Now, just like with the Rock and Crossworlds, why the fuck would you be caring about the polygon count on a can of soda? Nigga, you are Spider-Man. You're gonna be swinging high up in the sky for 70% of the game. Who gives a rat's ass about a little can of soda not being the highest quality model it can be? You won't even be able to see it with the damn eyeballs in your skull that are clearly transmitting those visual signals to a brain that turned its lights off eons ago. I think I got a little too heated there. I apologize. Kinda, not really. Now, like I said before, the big problem I have with these types of people, except the two specific examples I just mentioned, isn't that they're bringing up these topics at all. It's just how wildly they inflate the severity of said issue. If you think an animation doesn't look the best it can be, you're free to talk about that. If you think the model of a character isn't as striking as you want, you're free to talk about that. Hell, if you think a single sound effect doesn't sound too great, you're free to talk about that. But I need you guys to remember the difference between talking about a game and actually playing it. The things you mention here are oftentimes very minuscule problems in the grand scheme of things. If the game itself is great and fun, it's very easy to overlook such minor issues, and hell, most people won't even notice them in the first place. It's like you're sitting in a chair in the corner watching a couple go at it, and pointing out how their form could use a little work, and that sex is high-key overrated, versus if you were actually the one doing it. Dog, as long as both you and your partner's technique ain't complete dog water, I promise you, you won't even have the remaining mental capacity necessary to be thinking about that. Well, your girl might be, but that's a talk for you two to have. So no, the trick animations of Crossworlds being a little lackluster is not, in fact, the beginning of the end of the Sonic franchise. Nor is it a showing of accepting mediocrity from fans who really don't give a damn. First and foremost, a game should be fun. What constitutes as fun in a game can vary from person to person. To some, it could be the general gameplay. To others, it could be the story and the lore. Maybe even the visuals and aesthetics of it all. It can truly be anything. But at least if you're gonna talk up an issue as being more than just a minor nitpick, stop and think about how this affects the actual game itself, and not just your personal pet peeves. Then word it appropriately. The flames that I see spawn and fanned day after day by people that either didn't think about what they're saying or don't know how to properly word a sentence without sounding like a complete poop nose is insane. Maybe the world would finally know peace if everyone could take some social etiquette classes and like bake a giant cake together or something, I don't know. Though there are another class of ballooners that just really grind my gears. And in all fairness, Most other niggas hate these guys too, but these are the types that get all uppity about the addition of new options to a game. These can range from difficulty options to the ability to rewind or save state at any time, or even just certain character creation options. And these have to be the most bizarre ballooners of all, because these guys complain about something that the other types I mentioned, even the more foolish ones, do not quite have the luxury of. The option to not use these options. I couldn't tell you the amount of times I've seen people absolutely mauled over something they entirely have the option to ignore. Like, at most they just have to know that the option exists, and that's it. Buddy, you control the buttons you press. If an option that pisses you off is added to a game you want to play, you can just not engage with it at no detriment to your experience. If you think adding more difficulty options makes things too easy for you, then newsflash buddy, you can still choose the hardest option. Or if you feel the same way about rewind features, there's literally not a soul on earth that is forcing you to use it. No one cares. Though unfortunately, these kinds are actually the type to care. To care about how other people play their games, that is. Why these guys get so upset about the potential experience that someone else that they do not know might play the game is probably the most bizarre aspect of their anger. You will likely never come into contact with the people who might use the options you so despise. And even then, it would affect your experience in no way. So why waste your time getting up in arms about something that can only be a benefit to those that want it? It'd be one thing if this was a change to the core game experience, but they're not. So just ignore it. Now, what I hope to be getting across with my potentially repetitive rant here is just for any of you rapscallions out there that may be exhibiting traits of balloonism to change your ways and reform to my way of thinking. We all should. The way these fellas behave are similar to backseat gamers in a way, where it's easy to say a game's easy when you're just watching it, but then you actually play it and you realize, oh, I understand it now. Not me though. Now just replace difficulty with fun in that little analogy and boom, really makes you think, doesn't it? So basically, fellerinos, what I'm trying to say here is that the next person to make such an inflammatory nitpick is gonna get their pits licked, and that is a threat. Good night, everybody.
And everything is alright. I got a beat from Kim, and she could do it all night. Called up the homies and I'm asking y'all, which part are y'all playing basketball? Get me on the court and I'm troubled. Last week messed around and got a triple-double. Freaking brothers every way like MJ. I can't believe today was a good day.